While most are blinded, you know, not realizing that this war is going to go on a lot longer than the next 2 or 3 weeks. Even though the Pentagon and everybody else is telling you, oh, it's going to be about another 2 or 3 weeks and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you've been watching us here at Great Millstone, this war is not going to end because this is the Third World War. We're already in the Third World War, and it cometh quickly. It ends in a nuclear destruction. But through World War III, the MOTB will be mandated. And, well, you got the crisis going as WW3 goes into. Now the fuel rationing begins. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rekakadash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Braka the Yahweh, Braka the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rekakadash, Brakatam. So here it is. You know, a breakdown on what's actually going on with fuel rationing, because it is happening.
What's going on, guys? D7 back at you. We got quite a few developments here in terms of this whole war with Iran that I'm going to talk about, and ultimately where this is all going, because it looks like energy lockdowns are being implemented. There's laws already on the books, so you know that they've planned and plotted this. They're already rolling it out. This hasn't even gone full scale, but it looks like this whole thing is a plot and a plan to reset the entire world. That's what this is. Because there's places out there already rationing, already in emergency mode, from Thailand to Australia, in terms of just the gas alone. This also affects the food prices. Okay? Systematically, China and Russia at the exact same time stopped exports of all fertilizers and all stuff, potassiums and nitrates connected to fertilizers. This is war. This is also spring, when our farmers need those fertilizers to plant things, and it's not happening. This is going to cause devastation when it comes to harvest time later this year here in America. There's people talking about it all over the place. There's also water restrictions going into motion.
Yeah, water police.
Florida. All right, weather warfare, this time drought across the board, and of course the price of everything going up. This is going to cause the whole globe to fall into the trap. The whole thing engineered, what most people can't see, to bring an outcome that favors the elite, so to speak. And that's global control.
Yep, the saviors.
Onto a digital system in every country, because every country's doing it. Russia's doing it, China's doing it, America's doing it. So you know, just like with COVID, they're in on the whole thing. Okay? So this is a global push. Again, you're talking energy lockdowns. New York City's already trying to implement craziness to where people can't use that much power at all from 11 at night till 5 in the morning. They say that's going to open the windows for criminals to go crazy. Of course, this affects the everyday people, like you and me, by and large. You don't want to be one of the people left in the dark by your government when you've got solar panels on your house. That's ridiculous. If you see that all this is really hitting the fan in your neck of the woods, you might want to think about where you're at. If you can't collect water and they're rationing water, how are you going to survive there? How's your seeds, how's your family going to survive there in the future? In an arid climate like that, I just don't get it. I don't see how it's possible if you can't even collect the number one thing you're going to need to survive, which is water. It's about crunch time. And what it seems like to me is this whole thing that Trump's doing with the Straits of Hormuz, it's just like the lockdowns before. It started with 2 weeks. Oh, it's just going to be a 2-week thing, right? And then it got extended. He keeps doing the exact same thing. We just had a fighter jet shot down in Iran. And he's like, oh, can we pause to action so we can find all of our pilots? It don't work that way. People are roasting him because he has no off-ramp and no visible plan for all this. It's just, oh, we've won already, but we're going to keep pounding the hell out of them for a couple more weeks. If they want to hit water or anything like that and make it an attack on the people, that's when people are going to say it's a war crime and all these other things. The blowback from this is about to be tremendous, okay? It's not just blowback that people need to be getting ready for here. It's a whole global reset. I don't see anything pulling back here short term. Remember, they said short-term pain, long-term gain, and they threw that out there because they want people to know subliminally that this is the move. This is what they're doing. There's going to be pain to pump oil. If it goes over 150 a barrel, it's going to cause chaos you've never seen. I'm telling you, it's already happening. the cost of food and everything rising, and it's going to continue to rise because of everything I just told you. This is going to cause everything to roll over, and they want this. Remember, Trump said on camera he was sent here to do this reset. He said it. And not only that, the whole Mar-a-Lago Accord is written up to do just that. And it really goes into effect, it will, full scale, in May, when the new person gets in there and replaces Powell, for people that don't follow all that. These are big moves because things are going to shift and they're going to change. And the whole Mar-a-Lago Accord has to do with dealing with the reset of all of this. So it's going to happen. It's happening right now. I believe this whole war with Iran is staged and engineered here to help bring about all of it. And it's just going to make for pain on the people in the meantime. I hope you're ready. And remember, banks have been targeted now. I expect full-scale cyber attacks. We just saw one. They attacked the police stations and everything in New England, here in this country. All the lines were down, emergency services. Like, these little attacks are popping up all over the place. It's already happening. It's going down. It's begun. It really has. So prepare for more pain at the pump, at the grocery store, your water bills, your electric bills that have all become targets. And Iran just put the top 18 tech companies on the chopping block and said, we're going to start hitting you. They're hitting them in the Gulf already. Named Amazon, even named JP Morgan Chase Bank. A lot of moves being made with the back and forth here. Join me for the live streams where I've got more time to talk about this in greater detail.
So there you have it, though. Everything we told you would come to play is playing out. You know, again, you know, as Apostle Tahar puts it, man, we've already brought it all out. Now we're just going to tell you in real time. We've already brought it out. You know, now they're telling you in real time. You see, you know, we've heard a rumor from the Most High Yahweh. You know, and here it is. You know, well, not rumors. He told us what was going to happen, and we told you all. Take the oil and make a fortune. Trump says the U.S. could easily reopen the Strait of Hormuz. You know, so there it is. He's telling you that they could easily do it. President Trump made the claim on Truth Social, suggesting a U.S. operation to commandeer the strait would lead to massive prosperity for the world. With a little more time, we could easily open the Strait of Hormuz, take their oil, and make a fortune, he wrote. It would be a gusher for the world. In March, as a result, Operation Epstein Fury and Iranian attempts to close the strait just 10% of normal traffic. 220 vessels transited the strait. Earlier this week, President Trump suggested U.S. allies should secure their own energy through the strait if they're not prepared to help open it. In response, 40 countries met virtually on Thursday, led by the UK, to discuss ways the strait could be reopened using diplomatic and economic means rather than military force. Over the past day, 3 tankers have appeared to pass through the strait without sailing through the corridor approved by the Iranian regime. So, this is going to get a lot more bloodier now that they think, oh, okay, well, we'll just sneak through here. Iran's going to catch on to that. This is all being done on purpose, as you know. But, like everything else, well, the economic shock that nobody saw coming, it's already here. It's started.
The American economy is bleeding as this war with Iran continues.
Our economy is so bad right now that there are people who aren't getting paid enough.
Do you think we're safe because the United States is the world's largest oil producer? That is the most dangerous misconception in the country right now.
Well, it's official. The United States is bankrupt.
The warning signs are already here. Most people just aren't reading them.
That's
What's
true.
building right now in the U.S. economy?
We broke it
isn't a
down.
slow
Babylon
burn.
the Great
It's
has
a
fallen, that great
friendship. By the
city.
end of this video, you'll understand how the next few months could change everything for everyday Americans.
The American economy is bleeding as this war with Iran continues. If it is tied to the American economy, it is down like Jay Sean, the NASDAQ, S&P, the Dow Jones, even commercial metals. But one thing that is up, though, is oil prices and gas prices. Beefing with Iran is such an expensive thing to do because they own a maritime choke point. There's a lot of these in the world. The Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Malacca, and the Strait of Hormuz. And what these are sea passages or sea lanes that control a lot of global energy supplies and control a lot of trade. So Iran can be like, yo, fuck that. This is our strait. This is our domain. You cannot get past the straits if you're America, Israel, or friends with with them. And that makes everything more expensive because we can't get oil, we can't get aluminum, we can't get rubber, we can't get fertilizer, a lot of different shit. And in return, this makes borrowing money more expensive. Mortgages, business loans, which slows down economic activity, which as a whole affects this entire country in every sector.
The stock market has closed and the Dow has fallen nearly 800 points today, putting it in correction. That's right, it has lost 10% of its value since its last high and is now in correction. Not correction territory, it is in correction. And the stock market overall continued to fall, and the S&P 500 has had its 5th straight week in a row of being down. The NASDAQ also fell over 450 points today. Guys, the economy is in major trouble. Investors are signaling how they feel about things.
Well, it's official. The United States is bankrupt. It's insolvent. And this is not according to some wild-eyed left-wing liberal think tank. This is from the Department of the Treasury. The United States has assets
You know
of
that what they're going to usher in.
Liabilities of almost $46 trillion.
We're
The
here.
debt is expected to reach $40 trillion by the end of this year. Just paying the interest on that debt will eat up 16% of federal spending.
The last
In 10
train to
years,
the
number is
MOTB.
expected to grow to 26%. That's more than Medicare. That's more than Social Security. That's more than the Pentagon.
Here's what's coming for the U.S. economy. Make sure you listen, because there's still time to act. Energy and food costs are going to continue to rise. This is going to put the brakes on an already skittish economy here in the U.S. We're going to start seeing more delinquencies, and it's going to make its way to foreclosures. And here's why. Everybody says, well, people have a lot of equity in their house. Well, they think they do, but have you got to sell a house lately? Nobody's buying. So even if on paper, even if Zillow tells you have equity in your house, you don't unless you can sell that house. And if interest rates continue to stay elevated or go up even from here, nobody's going to be able to sell a house. So you don't have any equity in your home, even if you think you do. That's going to lead to mass foreclosures, which is going to drop the values even further. So then on paper, you're not even going to have any equity to match the reality that's actually going on. We're also having commercial real estate. This is going to be a gigantic problem for banks. We're going to end up seeing banks close, probably within a month would be my guess. And when that happens, it's going to be a ripple effect through the rest of the economy. I could see a situation where the stock market sinks 10% in a week very easily, maybe in 2 days, maybe in a day. We can't print our way out of this one like we printed our way out of the last couple of problems. Guys, the printing is what got us here. This has been building up for decades. We're here in the final stage of this mess. It's going to be sloppy. There's no magic cure. This mess has been building for too long. It's been kicked down the road, and now we're at the end of the road.
Yeah. I said, how many times do you think they're just going to kick it down the road? Here it is.
And make what you think are the wisest choices to prepare yourself for what's coming. Okay, good weekend.
What gets me about all of this is how quietly it's happening. The signals are there. Markets, debt, real estate, it's all pointing in the same direction. And most people won't feel it until it's already on top of them. This isn't something that's coming. It's already started. And we're really only seeing the very beginning of what an oil shock does to an economy like ours.
Do you think we're safe because the United States is the world's largest oil producer? That is the most dangerous misconception in the country right now. Being the #1 producer doesn't matter if your machines can't eat what you're pumping. What I'm about to tell you is for entertainment purposes only. Don't take anything that I say for the truth. I'm a conspiracy theorist, and this is just a prediction. We pump over 13 million barrels a day, but it's the wrong kind of oil. Texas and North Dakota produce light sweet crude. However, 70% of our refineries were built decades ago to process heavy sour crude from the Middle East and Venezuela. Think of it like this. You have a fleet of diesel trucks, but you're only producing high-octane racing fuel. You have plenty of oil, but you can't make the diesel or jet fuel we need to move the country. For years, we've relied over 1 million barrels a day of heavy crude from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait. The Strait of Hormuz closed on February 28th. That supply didn't just get expensive, it vanished. This is why in January, the military action in Caracas, Venezuela happened. We're trying to replace the Middle Eastern flow with Venezuelan heavy crude, but it's not arriving fast enough to stop the April gap. Next week, gas prices will jump to $1 or more in 7 days because the market will panic. Investors realize that our refineries can't process enough domestic light crude to keep up with the demand. In mid-April, there's going to be an 82% supply gap. Physical shortages begin at the pump because it takes 45 days for a tanker to reach us from the Middle East.
There it is.
Left since February 28th. The last heavy tanker stopped on April 15. After that, the tap runs dry. Refineries will start limiting production because they're physically out of the specific oil they were built to use. We need our engineers to solve a massive problem, redesigning our refinery hardware to run 100% on American light crude. The bottom line is the fuel crisis isn't a mistake. It is a catalyst being used to force us into the greater North American bloc.
Our economy is so bad right now that there are people who aren't getting paid enough. So because of the rising gas prices, they can't afford to get to work. Meanwhile, we now have our government requesting $200 billion. Let me repeat that. $200 billion to continue to fund a war that no one asked for. But people can't afford to get to work. We don't have universal health care. Rent prices are increasing. People can't afford to buy homes. They make education extremely unaffordable, or you take out loans that you will then pay for the rest of your life.
Hey, when's the price of gas going down? Because I'm in LA and this shit's like almost $7.
Yeah, exactly. It'll never go down.
This shit is getting out of hand. someone talk to the president and tell him to work this shit out? What's going on? I mean, all I want to eat. I drive home and I'm praying that I get there. And on top of that, my car is
ain't no banner for
so I'm at the gas
Babylon
station every fucking day, I feel like. I'm gonna spend, I don't even want to get into the details. Okay, let's drop these prices, because at this rate, I'm gonna have to sell my car. I can't do this shit. I'm getting like 7 to 8 miles to the gallon right now in this motherfucker. This isn't good. Might just get a bike.
Do you know that gas prices can send us into a recession? They've been saying all along that we're headed toward a recession, but no one could ever pinpoint it. But as soon as you get into high gas prices that keep going up, that'll push you into a recession faster than anything. And here's why. Once gas prices go up like they are right now, they're just crazy. People basically stop driving. They only drive when they absolutely have to. They don't drive for pleasure, they don't drive to go out, they don't drive to go get things. So they stop shopping. They cut back on everything that they do. And everything that everybody cuts back on means less for that business or service that they used to use but they're not using now because they've cut back. So then that business is hurting, and the people who own those businesses, they're cutting back and because of high gas prices and because of lack of business. And it just gets worse and worse and worse until everybody's running around broke.
Yep, and like everything else, you see the beginning stages of it. Babylon is tanked. With this, and you're going to see much more than a No Kings protest. We keep telling you that. But the No Kings protest, however, wasn't exactly small. Many celebrities joined it, as well as people showed up everywhere. Trump, to unveil his $1.5 trillion military budget, request amid raging Third World War, because that's what it is. It's not just a war with Iran, it's a Third World War. The 2026 military budget marked the first officially exceed $1 trillion, which was achieved by Congress passing a 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, better known as the NDAA, worth about $900 billion, and combining it with $150 billion in supplemental military spending that was included in the so-called Big Pitiful Bill, a reconciliation bill that became law last year. DC expected to go with a similar strategy to reach $1.5 trillion. It may request NDA worth about $1 trillion or less and seek a supplemental spending bill for $400 to $600 billion. Republican leadership in Congress has begun working on the potential supplemental. So there you go, man. Borrow more money. I mean, hey, why not? Why not just choke the shit out of every so-called taxpayer, right? Which is a lot. Battle for Karg Island. Iran downs U.S. F-15. One pilot rescued. U.S.-18 Warhawk fighter jet crashes near Strait of Hormuz. Pilot rescued. 2 airmen missing. Trump requests $1.2 trillion in military spending and more. So like everything else, so Harrison Smith went live with this, so we'll play some of it.
And I don't know, this just kind of struck me as I was watching it. I guess I could go through and find each one of these guys. But at the end of this video from Iran, they show like a pan across of all these guys. Half the guys are the Qatari Middle Eastern guys, and half guys are the American guys, and all the American guys have the American flag under them. I don't think a single one of them is a white American Christian. I don't know about Mark Rowan, but I believe he is Israeli, playing, not exactly Smith, Altman, Jewish guy, Satya, Indian guy, yep. Solomon, Jewish guy. So it's just kind of like, this isn't America. I mean, the historical American nation was white European Christian. And yet here we are in a war overseas, and you can show a pan across of everybody making deals over there with an American flag on their name, and not one of them is a white Christian. Not one of them. It's not really American. It doesn't feel very American to me. It's Chinese,
right.
Chinese is how it feels to me personally. I mean, wouldn't it be kind of weird? Like, wouldn't it seem kind of strange if there was a panover of all of the big leaders of China, and they were all named like Mike Waltz, or they're all named Jim Smith, Harry Painter, just like, what? I thought they were all Chinese. I thought this was the Chinese empire. Why are they all white Christian dudes? You would never see that, obviously, because it's only white Christian countries that have been taken over and replaced. It seems like they replaced the leadership, and now they're replacing the actual people.
Well, of course, plantation Christianity was an illusion anyways. They just kind of molded into Zionism, political Zionism. That's what you got. So let me get out of this. Slovakia. Let me get out of this. But you get the general idea. Trump's just for fun strikes against Iran could be war crime. More than 100 U.S.-based international law experts warn that American strikes against Iran may amount to war crimes, citing violations of the UN Charter. Really? They're going to bring up charges like they do with King Bibi? Because this guy, if he was held to it, there'd be he'd be banned from every country, right? But he is going to make America hate it, and he is going to be banned from every country, because they're fucking tired of his fucking tariffs. They are sick to death of this guy. They're sick to death of America, and it's great to see. In an open letter published on Thursday by the Just Security Political Journal, scholars from Harvard, Yale, and Stanford and other institutions stated that the unprovoked U.S.-Israeli campaign against Iran is a clear violation of the United Nations Charter. They also stated that the conduct of U.S. terrorists and statements by officials raised concerns about violations of international human rights law and international humanitarian law, including potential war crimes, which he admitted. He laughed about it when he blew up their bridge this week. He laughed about it when the girls' school, and then denied about the girls' school, but then he just finally said it was just for fun. So you couldn't get any more rhetoric than you do with this Donald Trump guy, and they're sick of him. Well, to quote Gerald Celente, there's bullshit, which Babylon the Great has been so full of bullshit, they have ate her flesh, they've sucked onto their philosophies, but there's bullshit, which is what Babylon has always been, and then there's Trump shit. That trumps everything about bullshit. It takes bullshit to a new height, right? There's bullshit and there's Trump shit, as this goes into.
When Washington explains its foreign wars, it talks about democracy, freedom, and national security. It presents itself like a doctor curing sick countries. But what if the doctor has a parasite in his own brain? The parasite is the military-industrial complex, a giant business, a permanent war machine, and no, Washington's wars are not only about oil. They're about bombs, missiles, contracts, and profits too. The United States Armed Forces is an economy of its own. America relies on a war economy like a junkie relies on drugs. President Eisenhower warned about this in 1961 when he spoke about the unwarranted influence of the military-industrial complex. This is not a new problem. Back in the 1930s, the U.S. Senate's Nye Committee investigated wartime profits and the political influence of arms makers after World War I.
They've had more wars than any other country on the face of the earth.
Public suspicion that arms interests had gained too much influence over
this is why it's called Babylon the Great. More than any other empire, they've had more wars.
Washington's global power became tied to the companies that
the hammer of the whole earth.
And over time, that system became highly concentrated. The Pentagon says the defense sector shrank from 51 prime contractors in 1990 to just 5. But let's be clear, this is not simplification. It was a consolidation into super corporations. The top 5 domestic recipients of Pentagon contract obligations are Lockheed Martin at $61.4 billion, RTX at $24.1 billion, General Dynamics at $22.9 billion, Boeing at $20.1 billion, and Northrop Grumman at $16.3 $3 billion. Those 5 firms served as prime contractors on more than 74% of the Pentagon's major defense acquisition programs. So the question is, how does it affect American foreign policy? The U.S. government depends on a tiny group of firms for critical weapons, and those firms gain huge leverage over what Washington can fund, what it can ship abroad, and what kind of wars it can sustain. Start with Lockheed Martin. It is the world's biggest arms producer by arms revenue. Its arms revenue reached $64.7 billion in 2024. Lockheed builds the F-35, the HIMARS launcher, and co-produces the Javelin with RTX. These are some of the central weapons in America's alliance system and proxy warfare model. And Lockheed depends heavily on Washington for its money. In its 2018 annual report, the company said 70% of net sales came from the U.S. government, including 60% from the Department of Defense. Its total 2018 net sales were $53.8 billion. That same logic runs through the whole sector. For most defense firms, the Pentagon remains the biggest source of orders, and their growth depends heavily on the defense budget. This is why these companies invest so heavily in politics. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were not only military campaigns, but also enormous business operations for U.S. contractors. In Yugoslavia, NATO's 1999 air war lasted 78 days and involved 10,484 strike sorties. While relying heavily on advanced precision-guided weapons, that campaign helped normalize a U.S. model of war built around expensive aircraft, guided munitions,
and Yugoslavia no longer exists.
But the profits were never limited to jets and missiles. Modern war also generates demand for tanks, armored vehicles, tactical trucks, rifles, ammunition, spare parts, repairs, and upgrades, which is why companies like General Dynamics, BAE Systems, Coast Defense, and Sig Sauer are also part of the same business model. Every major conflict becomes a source of revenue. Every American war is a business, so nothing personal. Washington, D.C. is the brain of America, and it has a big worm in it, the military-industrial complex. And this worm wants one thing and one thing only, never-ending war. The defense industry does not live on exports alone. Most of its money comes from domestic sales to the Pentagon, but exports are a huge part of the model too. The United States is the world's largest arms exporter. The U.S. accounted for almost 40% of global arms exports. Arms transfers to Europe rise every year, and the war in Ukraine pushed European demand even higher. A crisis abroad means new orders. A long war means steady revenue. This is why defense stocks often rise when wars break out. By early April 2022, Lockheed Martin stock was up 25.5% year to date, and Raytheon was up 16.4%, while the S&P 500 was down 4.6%. Reuters later reported stronger profit expectations for major defense firms as demand was driven by the Ukraine war and conflict in the Middle East. This is why the Ukraine war was such a windfall for the sector. Bomb makers need bombing campaigns, missile makers need missile wars, and the U.S. Congress is part of that machine. Congress approves defense spending. Congress approves military aid. Before the June 2022 vote on increasing defense spending for fiscal year 2023, military-industrial corporations gave $10.2 million to members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committees. After that, the House Committee backed $37.5 billion above the president's request, and the Senate Committee backed $45 billion more. A fruitful partnership.
Where the money goes.
Big weapons programs are built as political systems.
Take your toke, and all your cares go up in smoke. So you get it, man. It prides itself on that, right? On the destruction of others, man. That's all that Babylon the Great is. Hammer the whole earth. Well, now, let's just take out those nuclear plants, huh? Iran's Bushehr nuclear plant hit. Iran's Bushehr nuclear plant was hit by a strike this morning, according to Iranian media. The main facility was not damaged. So here it is, and it was on Al Jazeera. So I don't think I could get it. Yeah, I'm not getting any sound. Well, no wonder why. Okay. Anyway, thought that I would have a video there. Yeah, so either way, though, they hit the Bushehr nuclear plant. But there's more, right? I do have RT footage, so we'll just look at that.
National Crossing Live now to author and expert on terrorism, Talib Ibrahim. There he is, Mr. Ibrahim. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you for sharing your time with us here on RT today.
Thank you very much.
It is a profoundly disturbing story. It's a whole new level of insanity, as far as I can understand. Israeli-US strikes on the Bushehr nuclear power plant. This is, if not the third, maybe the fourth time they've gone after this. And I'm just trying to understand, in a state of war, what possible benefit can there be by striking a nuclear power plant?
I think this is madness in military sense, and that will not cause any change on the battlefield, and this will lead to very dangerous consequences. So I think the United States now is trying to apply more and more pressure on Iran by destroying and undermining the infrastructure of Iran, including electricity sector, and as you know that the Bushehr nuclear plant is producing about 1,000 gigawatts, and this is first. Second, I think this is a message to Russia and to the Russian nuclear industry, which is very strong and it has a very great reputation in the world. So they are trying to do this act to destroy this plant, and that which may impose a greater threat to the Russian interest. And if you remember, a few weeks ago, Israel and the United States attacked the seaport, the Caspian Sea, which was a sign of alert and threatening to the Russians. So this is not only insanity, this is madness, and I think we must find someone to stop the two mad guys and the two criminals, Trump and Netanyahu.
Yeah, it's amazing that so much of the Western Euro-Atlantic alliance remains very quiet when we're facing such a potential catastrophe here. Where is the IAEA? We know Rafael Grossi has been politicized from day one. He's been no help with the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant that's been under Russian control since March 2022. And every time Ukraine attacks that nuclear power plant, Rafael Grossi says, well, we're not sure who did it, but, well, just everyone needs to calm down. You know, back then, now a nuclear power plant being attacked. Now we have another nuclear power plant being attacked in Iran. I'm just trying to understand, wouldn't this be classified as some kind of war crime or an act of terrorism, striking a nuclear power plant?
I think you mentioned Rafael Grossi, and I think this man, if you compare him to his ancestors in charge of directing the International Atomic Energy, this is an American slave, and I think he's a part of the CIA and Mossad. He is implementing their agenda. He helped them to take information about Iran nuclear scientists to kill them. And this man mustn't be fired from his job. This is first. And second, yes, you mentioned Russia and the war in Ukraine, and Russia is trying to protect all nuclear facilities in Ukraine to avoid any catastrophe and any accident. But Rafael Grossi has no ears to hear and no eyes to look, and it's also in Iran. But if you look at any other place in the world, yes, this man will continue talking and talking. So we are facing a very big problem with the man and the people who must implement the international law and keep it working. Now they are a part of the war crime, and they are part of the criminal agenda for Israel and the United States.
How do you think, Talib, that Iran could retaliate to this? Because quite often, I mean, Tehran, for the most part, is very, very measured in its response. Very often it's tit-for-tat retaliatory strikes. Here we have what we expect is the fourth attack on the Bushehr nuclear power plant. What would you expect to come from Tehran in response?
I think Tehran must respond politically at the first place. They would send letters to the International Atomic Energy, to the Security Council, and they will work aggressively with Russia and China, because this is not a game. This is a very dangerous issue. We remember the Fukushima catastrophe. We remember the Chernobyl catastrophe. And if anything could happen to Bushehr facility, I think we will face a great catastrophe in the Middle East. And I think that if Israel will destroy the whole Bushehr nuclear plant of Iran, Iran will retaliate directly towards Dimona. And as if you see, and if you notice in the last few weeks, Iranians are concentrating on the surrounding area of Dimona nuclear facility in Israel. So all the Middle East will be in a great super catastrophe. Why? Because of the madness of Netanyahu, the madness of Trump. And if you see such a man controlling the superpower, I mean Trump, he is a man and he's thinking himself that he will bring the Messiah again, etc., etc. You will understand the great problem which we are facing it as thinkers, as writers, and as analysts, and as humans in the last place.
You make a very, very good point about the Dimona nuclear site in Israel. As you rightly pointed out, Iran has sent some very accurate pinpoint precision strikes in that direction in recent weeks. But if you imagine, because Iran is measured, it is a retaliatory tit-for-tat. If these US-Israeli strikes do continue to go after the Bushehr nuclear power plant, I think you're right. Dimona could very well be next in the crosshairs for Tehran. Talib Ibrahim, an author and expert on terrorism, a very enlightened.
So like everything else, though, you can see all that. Well, like everything else, though, well, we do know about the prophecy against Damascus as well, you know, and that I believe all that happens at the tail end of this, because obviously Damascus still exists. But I believe at the tail end of this, when the nuclear war starts, more than anything else, is when you see Damascus being ceased, and then in that same hour, Babylon the Great gets destroyed, because of the way the scriptures line up with the fatness of Jacob's, being made thin, meaning that 2/3 of Jacob gets cut off in that day. Cut off by what? Nuclear destruction, man. It ain't just the people of Syria. It's a third world war where everybody's going to be cut off by nuclear destruction. And by the angels of the Most High and Yahushua himself, all at the same time. Iran can sustain the Strait of Hormuz closure for years. We'll cut off U.S. military logistics. The current situation of the Strait of Hormuz could remain as it is for a long time, and Iran has the capability to sustain it for years. Speaking to Press TV official who spoke on the condition of enmity, explained how Iran's heightened sensitivity over the strategic waterway stems from the fact that the majority of equipment used to supply U.S. military bases and garrisons across the region has historically been transported by sea. Iran has the capability to sustain the situation for years, officials said, referring to the effective shutdown of the strategic waterway to the U.S. and allied terrorists. The official further stated that Iran believes it should no longer allow such logistical support to continue. So like everything else, though, they're cutting it off. And that's a good thing, right? And they'll figure out all these places that are dodging them. That dodging is only going to last for so long, and they're going to take those out too. Iran war is the end of American empire, and this is coming from Tucker Carlson, who is paid opposition, but nonetheless, though, he's speaking about the fact that it's true. It's the end of the American empire. All empires come to an end after 250 years, and it's reached its 250-year mark. Iran war has ushered the end of the American empire. Tucker Carlson suggested that U.S. President Trump calls for allies to secure the Strait of Hormuz, proved that D.C. could no longer function as the world's policeman. That's right, can't be the world police. Speaking on his podcast Thursday, Carlson commented on President Trump's remarks in which the president threatened to bomb into the Stone Age without providing an exact timeline for a ceasefire, while urging others to take the lead in unblocking the Strait of Hormuz. Strategic choke point, which accounts around 20% of all global trade. So, so like everything else, though, the hammer of the whole earth is being cut down. Prophecy speaking. Trump asked military to develop risky plans for ground operation to seize Iran's enriched uranium. So they're really actually going to try to go in, which you can see that's why they hit that Bushner nuclear plant, because he's actually going to try to do this. According to two sources, speaking with Washington Post, the Pentagon developed a plan to land troops in Iran, build a runway, and leave the country with Tehran's 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium. The President requested the Department of War to draft the battle plans, and he briefed on them last week. In recent weeks, Trump ordered additional troops to the Middle East that could be used to conduct ground operations in Iran. Good luck with that. Second U.S. warplane lost. The A-10 Warhawk crashes near Hormuz shortly after F-15 shootdown. And if you know anything about the A-10 attack plane, well, you should know, though, that it has everything to do with the concept of landing troops. Second Air Force combat plane crashed in the Persian Gulf region Friday. The lone pilot was safely rescued, according to U.S. terrorists who spoke on condition of enmity to discuss operational matters. The A-10 Warthog attack plane went down near the Strait of Hormuz about the same time that the F-15 was shot down over Iran. Officials said the incident, one crew member was rescued, and search and rescue operations are looking for the second airman. The A-10 incident has seen very little in the way of any details emerge. Currently, there's chatter that a second U.S. crew member, apparently shot down in the F-15, have been rescued also. Now, like everything else, though, there's also talks that one of the rescue choppers, that their men were arrested in Iran too, because they were actually able to shoot down a rescue chopper as well. So, Iranians shoot down US A-10 Warhog. Major signal that Trump is preparing to launch a ground operation near the Strait of Hormuz. So there it is. So we'll play some of it.
As you know, an F-15 has been shot down and now an A-10 Warthog. And the A-10 Warthog was shot down over the Strait of Hormuz on the Iranian side. Those are the first planes they're going to send in to soften up the defenses before a U.S. invasion of Krog Island or other areas, which Trump has been advised against. The Pentagon told him, the head of the Army, who they just fired, the Chairman of Joint Chiefs, who they haven't fired yet, so many others, Eric Prince, not doves, hawks, but said, don't try a full invasion of Iran. Don't attack Iran, period. And the fact that that Warthog is confirmed to have been shot down, they're trying to find the pilots in the ocean there, is a really bad sign, because I said weeks ago, if you see the A-10s going in, that means ground invasion. So we had sources a week ago, and I don't know if they were accurate, from inside the Pentagon, but also strippers and people saying the troops are telling them it was all going to start on Good Friday. That's the day. I hope that's wrong. And again, I'm saying all this about Trump, not because I'm a Qatari or Iranian agent, like these Israeli operatives are saying, with no evidence. It's because I don't want Trump to get us in a quagmire and have his agenda destroyed. And again, it just came out that, I knew this years ago, but there's even more documents, that Salem Radio is owned by the Israeli government. And all these talk show hosts attacking Tucker as a Qatari agent are literally on the Israeli payroll. I mean, Israel's openly running our foreign policy. And I don't even hate Israel. I just want Israel running our country and getting us in forever war. This is crazy.
At least the flock shall draw them out.
A-10 pilots and just everybody, because if there is a ground invasion, it's going to be so bad. This looks like it started. Hopefully, this is a wake-up call for Trump, because we're like the Martians attacking, Earth when it's from 50,000 foot. But once it gets up close with close air support, the Iranians got a lot of weapons. And if this is a ground invasion, this is just a start. So I pray for sanity. I pray for President Trump.
Shit pickle. Yeah, it ain't going to end well, right? He knows it ain't going to end well. And there's no praying, right? So like everything else, as from the men of valor, we just joined under Great Millstone, right? We all speak the same thing, man. So I'm going to let this play here.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Rachak Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And we have some pretty interesting news today. Just earlier today, as you can see here, this was updated on 11:55 Eastern Time, that a U.S. fighter jet was shot down in Iran, and one crew member was reported rescued, which they're saying, some other sources are saying that they haven't been rescued just yet. Like it's some sources are saying they are, some are saying they're not. But as of right now, what you have going on is, a search and rescue mission that their reports are saying is happening in Iran right now. Via certain, really aerial. They're really starting aerial, looking for this crew, okay, that was whose jet was shot down, okay. And it's interesting because as before we actually read this here, I have another headline here, which is from Global Surveillance, right? Breaking Newsmax reports that a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter may have been hit during the search and rescue operations in Iran, as it was last seen trailing smoke while crossing from Iran into Iraq. Okay, so things are already picking up. Let's see what they are. They're going to use this as an excuse to go in there and say, oh, we got to go rescue this crew. And then the ones we sent in there, they got smoked, and no, that's not enough. We got to send. Hey, we'll see. But it's definitely picking up. It wasn't by coincidence that you had, Trump come out and give that speech on April 1st, which it was like April Fool's, right? People thought he was about to say something about the war ending and peace talks and progress on that, but you're starting to see that's not the case. In fact, that's far, far from the case, as just today, just a couple minutes ago, we have here, at least as it's being reported, Iran rejects all U.S. demands and refuses to meet with American officials in Islamabad. which I believe is in Pakistan, because they were supposed to be brokering this, being like the intermediary, right, for these peace talks and so on. So you can see now it's like the complete opposite, right? Of oh, Iran is begging for a deal, and oh, we're so close, things are going good. No, it's just to buy time. You need to understand that this isn't something that they want to end anytime soon, and the Iranians have already figured that out. Okay, for them, this isn't about I'm not trying to control the markets, or I'm trying to play with the minds of the investors. They're trying to survive it, right? On the other hand, with the U.S. and Israel, this is a plan that they are executing. So let's read a little bit of this. It says, U.S. fighter jet shot down in Iran. One crew member reported rescued. The New York Times has cited U.S. and Israeli officials who have given confirmation that a U.S. fighter jet was downed and that a major rescue operation is underway, with the fate of the plane's crew unclear. The fate of the plane's crew was unclear as American officials scrambled to mount a search and rescue operation before Iran could get to any survivors, said the U.S. and Israeli officials, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss military operations. Now, on the other hand, the Iranian state media said basically they're encouraging everybody to say, hey, be quick and try to, if you see them, if they're in your area, capture them. That'll teach you not to come into their territory. The situation creates a military and diplomatic challenge for the United States, as President Trump has threatened in recent days to bombard Iran back to the Stone Ages. Over the past 24 hours, the United States and Iran have been trading attacks on military and civilian infrastructure in the region. And this is where it starts to get, more intense, because now you're not just targeting military bases, you're now hitting civilian infrastructure. That means that civilian casualties are going to be amounting. All right, they're going to be amassing, they're going to go higher. If you hit a bridge and there's cars on it, what do you think is going to happen to the people driving the cars? Right? So it's really just another escalation. The U.S. jet was an F-15E, U.S. officials said, which has a standard crew of 2 and not one of the stealth fighters of more recent design. Just days ago, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Iran's air defenses were so degraded that the United States was sending B-52 bombers over the country. The F-15E is much smaller, faster, and more agile, making it a tougher target. Well, then I wonder how they were able to down that. You don't say. So this is what you have going on over here. Once again, unconfirmed. There's some initial reports from Iran indicating successful targeting of an American helicopter during search operations of downed F-15 fighter jet earlier today. And what's today, April 3rd? So April is looking like it's going to be a pretty interesting month leading into May. After this is in the meantime, Iran's parliament speaker and the man who appears to be the de facto running the day-to-day of the country is trolling the United States. So this is what he says. After defeating Iran 37 times in a row, this brilliant no-strategy war they started has now been downgraded from regime change to, hey, can anyone find our pilots, please? Wow, what incredible progress. Absolute geniuses. Next we have here, Iranian farmers were shooting at American search and rescue helicopters with rifles in a desperate attempt to down them. But according to CNN's guests, perhaps Iranians helped the fighter pilot because they are happy that he's there. Let's take a look.
Thing in Iraq, and sort of this same thing in Iraq and Afghanistan as well. If you're going to be picked up by somebody who is going to turn you over to the Iranian forces that are going to use you and capture you, or is the population happy that you're there and want to help you? That we don't know. And so anybody that gets shot down over that space is having to deal with that uncertainty. Sort of this same thing in Iraq and
that's very interesting. Uncertainty, huh? You don't know that the country you went and bombed, and you're continuing to bomb, and you've hit their civilian infrastructure, you've hit their bridge. The people there have a nationalistic spirit. You killed their Ayatollah, right? But you don't know. You're not sure if one of the U.S. pilots who crashes on their land is maybe they're happy that he's there. Oh wow, that's interesting, huh?
Talk about gaslighting.
Anyway, let's move on. So we took a look at this already. I mentioned this earlier, right? Iran unwilling to meet U.S. negotiators in Pakistan. In fact, they have rejected negotiations. They said they don't want to meet. They reject the U.S. Your demands they're not even something they're trying to consider. So, take a hike. It says here, as Trump says, a little more time to open Hormuz. But wait, just a few days ago, he said, he might be willing to leave without opening the strait. So do you start to understand that there's actually a psychological operation, a psyop, going on the masses of the people. That's what the speeches are about. That's what the mini press conferences are about. That's what the little clips here when he says this and he says that. That's what that is about. Okay, it's misdirection. They don't have intent on stopping, as you can see. I can see it. So it's going to escalate. It's going to start drawing in those regional powers, and you will see. So it says here, talks at dead end as Trump says a little more time to open Hormuz. Trump, U.S. needs quote unquote a little more time to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So I guess the 2 to 3 weeks. It ain't really 2 to 3 weekend anymore, is it? While floating the prospect of seizing oil amid potential island and ground campaign, Washington Street Journal reports indirect talks at dead end. Not at dead end no more. Iran and Hezbollah fire 140 plus rockets during Jewish Passover, which happened to be on the 1st. Interesting. French-owned vessel becomes first Western-linked European ship to transit Hormuz. Iran targets Gulf infrastructure, including a Kuwaiti desalination plant. Let's take a look at this dead-end part here. So it says, given the pace of tit-for-tat airstrikes and escalation against infrastructure, in Iran across the Gulf, as well as in Israel, this is not surprising. The current round of efforts by regional countries led by Pakistan to reach a ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran has reached a dead end, mediators said Friday. Iran has officially told mediators it isn't willing to meet U.S. officials in Islamabad in the coming days, and that U.S. demands are unacceptable, the mediators said. So, there's that. Okay, there's that. What do we have next here? Now, this is also pretty interesting, considering the senior Iranian official involved in reaching out to Vance, or DJ Vance, was severely wounded in an airstrike. Isn't that interesting? A top Iranian official who was involved in diplomatic outreach and indirect talks or messaging with the United States and Pakistani mediators was reportedly critically wounded in a U.S.-Israeli strike. Kamal Karazi, an 81-year-old senior advisor to Tehran and former foreign minister, lost his wife in the Wednesday strike on his home, state media has said. Do you think that after this he's interested in having peace? Do you think they are interested in having peace? Their mindset is literally like we're dealing with madmen. You can't talk peace with a madman. And this is a perfect example of Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, yet war was in his heart. Oh yeah, let's meet, let's have peace. But you're escalating your attacks. You're using more provocative attacks now that you're discussing peace than you were before you started discussing peace. Look at what they do. Listen to what they say, but look at what they do. Okay. Karazi chairs Iran's Strategic Council in Foreign Relations and has been viewed as a potential back-channel negotiator involving Islamabad, but now he's been hospitalized with serious injuries, state media has also said. We have seen what looks like an assassination attempt against the former foreign minister, Kamal Karazi. We don't know why he's been targeted. He has been gravely wounded, and his wife was killed. Iranian officials described to Mirror News agency that Karazi, if I'm saying that right, was overseeing outreach to Pakistan tied to a possible meeting with U.S. President J.D. Vance. A potential Vance trip to Pakistan was initially reported as possibly being in the works late last month. Yeah, you can kiss that goodbye. So now it says here, but Middle East Eye has reported that Karazi was not seeing much room for diplomacy as U.S.-Israeli actions escalate to attacks on Iranian infrastructure and energy. How do you have diplomacy and you're blowing this shit up? Like, yo, how does that make sense? He told CNN in March, I don't see any room for diplomacy anymore because Donald Trump has been deceiving others and not keeping with his promises. And we experienced this in 2 times of negotiations, that while we were engaged in negotiation, they struck us. So why should you do it a 3rd time? There's a saying, fool me 1 time, shame on you. I think this is J. Cole. He had it in a song, fool me 2 times or fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. But I forgot how it was supposed to go. Maybe it's supposed to go, fool me 1 time, shame on you, fool me twice, then shame on me. Something like that, right? But you get the point. How many times will you let yourself be fooled? And they're letting you know, yeah, that's not happening again. If he succumbs to his wounds, Karazi would be the latest senior Iranian official killed since the war began. So, down here it says some analysts and pundits have accused Israel, in particular, of trying to sabotage any U.S.-Iran talks, as the Netanyahu government wants to see complete regime collapse in the Islamic Republic. Look, when you're dealing with the state of Israel, right? When you're dealing with them, they don't let shit go. They don't say, oh, we want to do this, but we'll settle for this. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. They didn't spend the last decades preparing and orchestrating things. All those events they've had in the Middle East, they were calculated. Okay? They didn't spend the last few decades preparing all of that up until this last part to turn around and say, yeah, we'll settle for whatever it is. That's not how it works. What's also interesting happening here on the U.S. side of things, it says Hegseth ousts chief of the army as Iran war persists. There's this, as it's worded here, a Pentagon shakeup, okay, under Trump, where a lot of people, as you've seen, are being replaced, removed, and you have to wonder why, right? This really started after this intensification of this Iran war. So you can see the sentiment of majority of people is we don't want this. So is it by coincidence that all of a sudden now they're being replaced? Let's read this here. It says here, as on Thursday, Pete Hegseth has dismissed Army Chief of Staff General Randy George, asking him to step down into early retirement. The move is unusual, given this is the head of the Army, and the United States is past the 1 month mark in Trump's Operation Epic Fury. You're in the middle of this operation, and you're having him step down? I wonder why. Because they know the next phase is going to be something intense. They can't have somebody that's on the fence or somebody that's not down, that's not a war hawk, in this position. A reason hasn't been given as to what amounts to General George being effectively fired. But you can put two and two together and see that this is likely due to the mindset, the attitude that they want for going into this time, right? Things escalate. You have here Russia, okay? Russian embassy outraged after U.S.-Israeli strikes damage Orthodox Church in Tehran. The Russian embassy in Tehran has issued an angry denunciation of Wednesday U.S.-Israeli airstrikes, which damaged a Russian Orthodox church and an adjacent nursing home. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, the embassy statement further underscored that the tragedy happened during a sacred week of the Christian calendar. We note that St. Nicholas Cathedral was damaged during Great Lent and ahead of one of the main religious holidays, Easter. Due to the military recklessness of the United States and Israel, the Orthodox community in Iran is unable to visit the church, the diplomatic mission wrote on Telegram. Let's see what we have here. So they're pretty upset about that, but once again, it's a gradual escalation, okay, and eventually it'll get to the point where these nations will be drawn in. Why? Because it's prophecy, okay. Lastly, you have your Oracle's Dubai data center reportedly hit as Iran expands attack on AI infrastructure. And why is this important? This is important because the Iranians did say, they showed a list, Google was on the list, Amazon was on the list, of these tech companies that they're going to be attacking. I believe they give a deadline for April 6th or so, but them hitting these data centers is letting you know they're not bluffing, and that is going to have an effect on you. If you've been paying attention, prices are already going up. Okay, prices are already going up, and now you're having an escalation. And what days do they fight it? If you notice, a lot of these happen towards the end of the week, and then on the weekend, and then the markets are in disarray come Monday. Okay, but all this is happening, and it's moving very, very quick. Okay, this is Romans 13 and 11. And knowing the
third wall coming quickly.
It's our time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. So we're seeing these things, and it's looking close, but it's even nearer than when we believed.
Yeah.
Because the Most High is orchestrating all of this meticulously. All right, and He's controlling the pace. So you can definitely see that things are picking up, and they're going to intensify more and more and more. And before you know it, if we're still allowed to be doing lessons, we'll be talking about the active implementation of the MOTB. So I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rechak Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.
So there you have it, though. It's not looking too good for the Babylonian Empire. U.S.-Israeli state responsible for attack on Kuwait's power desalination plant. So in other words, they were trying to do a false flag to blame Iran for it, but it looks like the U.S. and Israeli state was responsible. The IRGC stated that Israeli state carried out earlier attack on Kuwait's power and desalination plant, warning regional countries to stay vigilant. On Friday, Kuwait said that an electricity generation water desalination plant came under attack. Country's Ministry of Electricity, Water and Renewable Energy accused Iran of attacking the facilities, but they're letting you know. In this statement, the IRGC Public Relations Office condemned the attack as an inhumane act carried out by the aggressors. So they're trying to frame the IRGC once again. And they're saying, look, man, we didn't do this. if we were going to do something, we'll tell you about it, and it's very, very true. They've been very, very honest in the retaliatory strikes and where they're going to hit. And they also give you evacuation orders. They tell you, hey man, you might want to evacuate. We're retaliating on these places. And they name military targets, not civilian targets, but military targets. It's said that the unconventional and illegitimate attack by the U.S. Israeli aggressors on Kuwait's energy and civilian infrastructures is a sign of their depravity and baselessness. The IRGC also urged regional countries to remain vigilant about attempts by the U.S. and Israeli state to destabilize and destroy West Asia, which they want to, of course, usher in their leper messiah, if you will. See, they want to bring in their messiah, these Amalekites, because they never accepted JC to begin with. No, they want to bring in their own false messiah, aka Antichrist. And there's a lot of talks amongst Christians about that bit there. But let's say that they bring in, because we know that as they do this, they will usher it in. But it's going to be the real one, and that's going to come as a blow to both, to Amalek and to the Edomites, because there is no leper Messiah out there. He does not have leprosy. What they're going to see is him coming fully arrayed, because he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and he's going to come via them ships. He will not greet thee as a man, So, yeah, they're definitely calling down the angel of death, if you will, because the angel of death, is, in fact, they have lots of names for it, but pretty much so, he's going to come to rule. And he is the angel of death, by the way. So, this is another side of Yahweh Shai that they're not ready for, because they told you he was all love, right? He's all love. No, he's come here to destroy. He's coming here to destroy. He's going to gather his elect, but he's going to destroy. 2/3. 2/3 shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, right? The fatness of Jacob shall wax lean. Describing the destruction of Damascus and everything else there in the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is the valley of Yahweh's judgment. Has concern over Hormuz made us forget the Red Sea? Yeah, see, they ain't even talking about this, but the Red Sea, well, that got cut off too by Yemen, by the Axis of Resistance, which is Yemeni armed forces, are also cutting off the Red Sea. Wartime concerns about the security of maritime energy traffic through the Strait of Hormuz connecting the Indian Ocean Gulf of Oman with the Persian Gulf have overshadowed the fact that the related issue of Red Sea security is far from resolved and is in fact becoming more dynamic. The Red Sea-Suez link between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean is of equal strategic importance to global trade. The Hormuz choke point is, through geographical and common players, intrinsically linked with the Persian Gulf conflict. Always in the background is the reality that Ethiopia, now that's named Ezekiel 38, is it not? Could revive its historical influence over the Red Sea-Suez sea line of communication. So there it is. So you're going to see more movements around there cutting off the Red Sea. And that's where Russia is going to be defending them. You see how that all comes into play? Now I got one more here before we close this out. Because the micro CHIP has to come before full judgment goes out, before the Third World War escalates. World War III is not happening, it's already here. But before it escalates into full-blown conflict, Oh, shut up! I don't need that shit. Salakia. So, like everything else, though, you see Ezekiel 38, man, it's like, okay, well, that's talking about Ethiopia, is it not? Yeah, it's right here. Kush, right? So does that not make sense that Russia's going to defend all these areas? And that Yahweh Shai and the angels are going to come to destroy the final forces of Gog and the land of Magog? Because who can destroy Russia at this point? Russia is going to be a key player in this war, as this thing is about to go nuclear a few months from now. And part of the consequences of taking the MOTB will be being cut off. The fatness of Jacob being waxed lean in this valley. You know, which we already know that Jake's definitely in the services, but also, you know, Jake over here. 2/3 are going to be cut off in that day when the Lord of Hosts is mustered to the battle. That is, the angels of the Most High and Yahushua himself. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 2, and it reads, Son of man, set your face against Gog and the land of Magog, the chief ruler of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. So, you know, again, this is talking about the remaining forces, which is going to be there. You're going to see Russia drawing into this war no matter what. And it's going to be a lot more than just providing military intelligence. Their armies are going to be there, surrounding these areas, protecting them. And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against you, O God, chief ruler of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, bring you out, all your army, horses and horsemen, all the magnificently clothed in full armor. And this is just to destroy them. To destroy them right there in the valley of Jehoshaphat. See, when you see Russia and all its armies coming down and all over that area, just know that the return of Yahushua is about to happen. Because he's going to destroy all of Esau Edom, which includes Gog and Magog. A great horde with buckler and large shield, all of them handling swords. Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet. You know, which also have the names Persia, Cush, and Put. You know, again, Ethiopia, that's controlling the Red Sea. So doesn't that make a lot more sense? Gomer and all its troops, Bet to Gomer from the north parts and all its troops and many people with you. That's talking about Turkey. You, God, prepared. Be prepared. Prepare yourself, you and all your hordes that are assembled around you. Be guard and look out for them. So like everything else, as their armies are there and they're coming into the land of Israel. Verse 10 and 11, or actually verse 9. You will go up against them and come like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land, you and all your troops and many people with you. You know, when they come out to destroy the Zionist entity, and Babylon the Great for that matter, because nuclear missiles will be deployed as well. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it will come about on that day that evil thoughts shall come into your mind. You will decide a plan. And you will say, I will go up against the open country, aka the Israeli state. I will come against those who are at rest, peaceful, who live securely, all of them living without walls and having neither bars nor gates. You know, and that is also talking about Babylon. See, the Yahushua is going to use Gog Magog, you know, to also come against Babylon the Great as well. To take spoil and seize plunder, to turn your hand against the ruins which are now inhabited, and against the people, the Zionists, who are gathered from the nations who acquired cattle and goods, who live in the center of the world, aka those Israelis. So like everything else, so Yahushua has this whole thing designated, you know, and there is a destination, because he will come to rule, and he's going to destroy Esau Edom once and for all. So we pray this happens soon, but before that happens, they're going to usher in the MOTB, as they talk about. They're going to deliberately crash the system and usher in the MOTB, as WW3 went into at the beginning of the video, as this one does as well. Shalom, Bracha the Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahushai, Ba'Shem, Rakakadash, Wal Abal Babal. Brakatham, Jehovah Elect, Shalom. And of course, this is Apostle Tahar.
Shalom, real quick, giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahushai, Ba'Shem, Rakakadash, Shalom to the 144,000, and the rest of the elect out there, Shalom to you all. And I'm going to entitle this video, Professor Richard Werner and the Microchip. So we're talking about the MOTB. Anyway, I was watching this video. It was in my notification. Redacted. U.S. dollar collapse. The Iran war has triggered a disaster. And you're feeling it at the pumps.
and it's going to get worse. Prices should go up more. But so the first guess, this is 5 minutes and 33 seconds in. Let me come back over here. Okay, this is Joe Kent, I'm sorry. He's been in the news, former director of National Counter-Terrorism Center. He just got fired from, he was part of the Nero administration, Trump administration, and he criticized Trump, and I believe he either resigned or got fired. So he was a guest on the Redacted show with, what's his name, Clayton Morris, you know? They have Natalie and Clayton. Clayton is just on here. And I think there's a segment from a longer show, you know, a couple of hours or whatever, live show. But anyway, I'm listening to it. And then right here, give me a second. Right here you had this individual, which I'm not going to play. And I recognize his face. And let me see if they're going to give you his name, which they are eventually. So when I saw the face, and I saw the Professor Richard Werner, author, Princes of the Yen, Japan Central Bankers, and the Transformation of the Economy. The transformation of the economy is going from paper dollars to digital currency, CBDC. So I'm familiar with the face and the name because it was George Gannon, I believe his name was, that led me to a quote that Professor Richard Werner made. I believe he's a Jake. He's a German, but he's you know, he'll be in auditoriums with nothing but bankers and elite, you know, financial elite people in there. So he's very respected in that world. Plus he's a professor. So he made a statement that George Gannon made. This was, and I got it on my Odyssey page. This was, we're talking, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, maybe 6 years, something like that. So it was George Gannon. He deals with the financial world and the banking world. He said in that particular video that there's going to be one central bank, and it's going to be centered in England, and not England, London, England, which is one of the 3 city-states. You got London, England, financial city-state. You got the Pentagon or DC, the military, what do you call it, city-state. Then you got the Vatican City, which is the so-called religious city-state. The Vatican City is only 2 miles square. DC is 10 miles square, and I got to go look up to get the dimensions on London. I'm not talking about England, like London, where the elites are. There's a whole other set of laws that when you're outside of London, you have England, the rest of England, but you have this area where this one city-state dwells in. And George Gannon quoted this individual that you see right here, Professor Richard Werner, and he said that they're going to establish, there's going to be a major crash, and they're going to reestablish, they're going to do what's called a reset. And the top bank, this top central bank of currency is going to come out of London, England, which is the super elite, the super rich elite. So George Gannon said, he quoted this guy. So I looked into this guy, I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years ago. So he's at he's in an auditorium, and the people around him that's sitting in the audience are, guys with suits, middle-aged or older guys in suits, look like businessmen and bankers and so forth. So they were there listening to him, and he actually made the statement that's also on my Odyssey page. Both the George Gannon, and the Professor Richard Werner. So he mentioned something. He mentioned something in that address that he made. Well-respected guy, internationally respected among the elite. So it says, author, Prince of the Yen, Japan Central Bankers, and the transformation of the economy. The transformation of the economy is digital currencies, microchip. So what I did was I said, well, you know what? Let me do this. I hadn't seen this guy in a while. Let me, we're talking about Revelation 13 and 16. Let me go to Okay, I didn't go here. Let me go. Give me a second, y'all. Give me a second. Okay, here it is right here. So I put in Richard Werner, Professor Richard Werner, or Richard Werner, and I put in the, I think I put in microchipping or something. So I clicked on it, and guess what popped up? Okay, it says basic income, which is UBI, hashtag UBI, which stands for Universal Basic Income. Because robots are going to do most of the work. Okay, so, here we go. It said it was not true back in 2018, and I believe this is the first time I saw him, George Gannon, I believe it was about 2018. So we're talking 18, 19. We're talking 8 years. It says it was not true back in 2018, because they spoke about it when Richard Werner made this claim that the Bank of England, which is London, England, the city-state of London, England, and I said you got 3 city-states, major city-states, the Vatican, D.C., or the what do you call it, the Pentagon, all right? And then you got London, England. It says the Bank of England, which according to him will be the central bank for the whole planet, already had a plan. The Bank of England, this is in 2018, the Bank of England already had a plan to implant people with microchips. And it remains false to this day. So they're saying that didn't happen. They never said that, which is bullshit. Because why would George Werner say that? He's a well-respected professor on an international level, and he deals with the economy. Let me read that again. It was not true back in 2018. A lot of times they say, oh, that never happened. Plausible deniability. Oh, that never happened. I never did that. Oh, nothing happened on Epstein Island. We were just having dinner. This is what they do. This is what they do. It says, but GMS is here to set the record straight. We are the premier camp on the planet Earth. We are the numero uno when it comes to the prophecies. Just ask chat. Ask Google. AI. Go to Google and go to AI. Ask them about GMS Israelites. What is their take? What is the take on them? They're known for their apocalyptic breakdowns, prophetic breakdowns, eschatological breakdowns, or language. IUIC is known for marching and looking in order, which that's not the truth. Looking in order doesn't matter. The Farrakhan and the NOI, Nation of Islam, if that was the truth, they would be the truth. They ain't the truth. They said it was not true back in 2018 when Richard Werner, so they're saying Richard Werner just made this shit up. No, he did not. Made this claim that the Bank of England already had a plan to implant people with microchips, so they're denying it. Deplorable deniability. Somebody look that up and put it in the chat. Plausible deniability. Let me do something. Excuse me. Let's look that word up. Excuse me, y'all. Very pretty lady. Very pretty. Anyway. Bear with me for a minute. Going to Google. Talking about the MOTB. Plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is the ability of high-level officials or leaders to deny knowledge of or responsibility for illicit or controversial actions taken by subordinates due to a deliberate lack of evidence. Oh, no, we never did that. No, I don't know what you're talking about. It works by ensuring that no direct written or record evidence links the superior to the action, meaning you have points, right? On the chessboard you have points. So you have points, you have lower people that you blame it on people. Well, this guy did it, Joe Schmo did it. We don't know what's going on. And they did it, they committed that particular crime. Let's go back to the PDF files. They're all screaming, we didn't do it, we had nothing to do, we wouldn't do nothing like that. And all the evidence is out there. This is why, and people said this, What happened before this man actually declared war on Iran? What was big in the news? The PDF files. You notice that this war, the PDF file is no longer the head news story. It says often, okay, recorded evidence like the spurious to the action often through vague directives, allowing them to plausibly claim ignorance if the action is exposed. That wasn't us. I didn't know who did that. I didn't know how my name got there. Because they say that Nero's name is in there, but they said it was 35,000 times. Now they're saying it's over 1 million times. So there's all kind of dirt on these people, which includes the Clintons, the what is this? Obama, not Obamas, but that's what it means. Plausible deniability, simple English Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. If there is no definite evidence of wrongdoing by an official, then her denial can be taken as sincere. So what they do is, certain people get put to sleep. You got the guy, the key witness, you know, what do you call that? The star witness. What happens? The star witness is getting ready to spill the beans, the proverbial beans, and what happens? The star witness disappears. So they do that. They showed you that there was a documentary called The Clinton Chronicles, and they showed you how they made people disappear when they were going to, expose the Clintons. And you might be able to find that on YouTube. If not, you can probably get it on Rumble or Odysee. You can find it though. And that's a conspiracy, not a conspiracy theory. So anyway, let's come back over here. Okay, I don't want this. This is what I want. Let me read it again to you. It was not true back in 2018, the plausible deniability, I don't know what you're talking about. When Richard Werner, a highly respected economic professor, internationally recognized, made this claim that the Bank of England already had a plan to implant people with microchips, and it remains false. See, even to this day, today is 4/2/2026, and I don't know what that's all about. Maybe the guy's going crazy. It says microchips, and it remains false to this day. It would also not meet the definition of the UBI, Universal Basic Income, to require a microchip implant. Right? They're saying no, you don't need. We're going to give you the UBI, Universal Basic Income, and you don't need a chip. Right at this point, you don't need a chip. Eventually, you're going to need a chip, and that's what they always do. They deny it, then they go ahead and do it. Okay, so let's read. Let me see what this says. As of my knowledge, cut off in September 2021, there is no publicly available evidence, or it's not what you know is what you can prove. Alonzo, training day. It's not what you know is what you can prove. Official statements from the Bank of England that support Richard Werner's claim about the bank preparing microchip implants for individuals. The idea of microchip implants linked to the bank or personal identification is a topic that often comes up in speculative discussions and conspiracy theories, but it's not a conspiracy theory. Well, it still is, because people say, well, that's not going to happen. Oh, it is going to happen. We got to wait. And right now it's a conspiracy theory. When it comes to pass, it's no longer conspiracy theory. It's a fact. But it is not a part of mainstream banking or monetary policy discussions. Right. They do things behind the scenes. This is what I'm going to do. Wall Street Maverick. The Bank of England has already prepared their microchip implant, RFID chip, to be implemented under your skin. Now think about that for a while. And think about IUIC, ICBK, and others. And what is our response to them groups? They've sold out. They sold out. You know there's a car on the side. They're not talking about the microchip no more. They ain't mentioning that. And if they sold out, which they did sold out, we can't prove it. That I believe when the chip comes, they're gonna say no, the chip has nothing to do with Revelation 13 and 16. Well, didn't you say that 3 years ago? Yeah, but we were wrong. We had a dream and we were wrong. And you're gonna have people, low IQ, spiritual low IQ people following these guys, and they're gonna take the chip. The bottom line is this: when your leaders say go ahead and take it, there's nothing wrong with it, and you go ahead and take it, you're gonna be destroyed, and he's gonna be destroyed for not warning you. And he can't say, well, I didn't know. because GMS done told them. It says when you take the implanted chip, if required for your government benefits, because that's what's going to happen. So let's listen to this. Fair use, fair use, fair use. This is only 49 seconds long, and that's it.
Have like the bank.
I'm sorry. Let me bring it back. Let me put the sound up. I might want to slow it down. Slow it down, man. Slow it down. Okay, let's go. We're going to slow it down if we can. Nope, I guess we can't. Okay, so let's go ahead and play it. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant RFID chip to be implanted under your skin.
Okay, this is the actual meeting that I spoke about earlier in this video. This is the actual meeting. And they do a pan around to the audience, and it's all middle-aged to old Edomites with suits on, bankers and elite people. Let me bring it back. GMS was always right. Oh shit, GMS was always right.
Have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant RFID chip to be implanted under your skin. And why is there sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commas movements and billionaires? Oh, universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip.
The Federal Reserve is considering a...
I got to bring that back.
And billionaires. Oh, have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant RFID chip to be implanted under your skin. And why is there sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commas movements and billionaires? Oh, universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip.
The Federal Reserve is
when they give you the UBI, universal basic income, and Jacob's going to take it because hey, that's free money. Because robots are going to do everything, like the song IGY by Donald Fagen. Just machines, just meaning righteous machines to make big decisions. You got to listen to that song. What a beautiful world this would be. What a wonderful time to be free. That 76 will be A-OK. 76 is code for America, will be A-OK. That song came out, I believe, 82. First time I heard it was in a record. They had the old school record shops. Where you would go in there and you go to the LPs and you would thumb through it. And then they would play different songs, new songs, and you would say, who's singing that? Oh, Donald Fagen, IGY. Let me get that album, you know. I went into the store, the record shop, and there was Jake up in there and Esau. And Jake, when they heard that song, they were all dancing to the song. They were all moving to the beat of that song. Because Donald Fagen, he looks like an Edomite, but he's clearly a Jake. Great song. It's a timeless song. I love that song. But you got to listen to the lyrics. He's basically talking about the New World Order. I'm going to play it one more time.
Have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant RFID chip to be implanted under your skin. And why is there sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commas movements and billionaires? Oh, universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip.
The Federal Reserve is considering a digital dollar. The implications for privacy and freedom are frightening. But central bank digital money is ominous. The downside of governments being able to track digitally every single product or service you buy and sell is chilling.
Yeah, how are they going to do that? Through the microchip.
The third way we think CBDC can improve it.
CBDC is an international term. You go to China, you say CBDC, economists know what you mean. Central bank digital currency. Let's bring that back. I'm going to bring that back to...
Buy and sell is chilling.
The third way we think CBDC can improve financial inclusion is through what we call programmability.
Have, like the Bank of England, already prepared the...
Program you. They're going to give you the CBDC, central bank digital currency, for a while. Then in order to keep using it, you have to eventually get a microchip. What do you think the average Jake that don't take our video seriously when we speak, they're going to wind up taking it. They're going to say, oh, no, I don't remember ever seeing a GMS doing a video on a microchip. We did tons of videos on a microchip. You just don't pay attention. You look at these videos, most of y'all, you're entertained by it. You're not taking notes. You're not serious about this thing. So you're going to get caught out there. Like I said, if there's 50 million Jakes in America, Judah, I'm talking about, if there's about 45 according to Esau's numbers, they're all going, 50 million are going to die. You got 350 million people in America, whether it's citizens, denizens. We talk about 300 million plus is going to die here in America, going to get burnt up.
Their microchip implant RFID chip to be implanted under your skin. And why is there sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commerce movements and billionaires? Oh, universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip.
The Federal Reserve is considering a digital dollar. The implications for privacy and freedom are frightening.
Digital dollar, that's just the fulfillment of Revelation 13, 16, and 17. Remember, I told GMS was always right. GMS was always correct. GMS is the number one camp as far as Hebrew Israelism is concerned, and we strongly believe that we are the prophets. Nobody's teaching this. What group is teaching about the mark of the beast like we are? Nobody, and I mean nobody.
But central bank digital money is ominous. The downside of governments being able to track digitally every single product or service you buy and sell is chilling.
Buy and sell. No one is to buy and sell shit. At least they have the chip in the right hand on their forehead. If you live in another country, left hand on forehead.
The third way we think CBDC can improve financial inclusion is through what we call programmability.
Program the people for it. Program the people for it. So anyway, that's all I wanted to go into. And I got this from Google. There's an Arab page. I got this from Google. So anyway, Shalom. On to the next.